So we all need someone who inspires us to do our best. I was fortunate enough to have Dr. I have the world's best boss who's also the best in his specialty. And I should say, I will give the credit to my family, my mother, who's a gynecologist herself, and she was always my guide and who used to say, whenever I would contaminate my thought, work and personal life, she would say, note down. When you're at work and you're getting disturbed by your life things, note it down, prioritize it, and then take a decision, and then do it. So this will help you to compartmentalize and delegate your job. And my daughter, I felt I was there for her most of the time, but I may not have been there for most of the time. And I used to feel guilty, but then she always would say, kuch paane ke liye kuch kona padta hai, and she is the secret for my growth. And I would not like to undermine the role of organization, which is very, very important for the well-being. This is from the Mayo Clinic, where they have formed an office of joy. This is like the tree of our life. The roots are what all employees look for. They look for respect, integrity, and compassion. The branches are the role of the HR and the organization, where they try to continuously engage and empower their employees and lessen their burdens. The leaves are various activities which they can plan, they can change, they can drop off. And the fruits are what we are looking for, our well-being, comradeship, the choices, and the physical well-being. So most of the people felt that if the organization cared about their well-being, they had high organizational support, so they gave their best. So it's a win-win situation for both the employees as well as the organization. So I would like to conclude by saying that life is like a chocolate box. Each chocolate is a proportion of life. Some are crunchy, some are nutty, some are soft, but in the end, all are delicious. So you have to have a satisfaction, which is the key for your happiness and the key for success. You cannot have all, you should know it's not perfect. So by saying that, I am very happy that P.T. Usha has been elected as the first female president of the Indian Olympic. This speaks. Thank you. Now I would like to call upon the second speaker, Dr. Sujana Priya, a radiation oncologist, to talk about how she's going to balance the work life. Thank you everyone and a very good morning. So I'm Dr. Sujana. So I'll be talking about, my colleague Dr. Amrata has already spoken about how you balance your work, life and everything. So today I'll be talking about the physical well-being of how you balance your work and life. So what is the response nowadays whenever you meet someone in a party or anywhere? What's the response nowadays as to the question, how are you? So any takers? Any takers for this question? So most of them say I'm busy. Irrespective of whatever you do, they say I'm busy. That's the first very generic answer what we're getting nowadays. So of course, let's quickly talk about how do you balance your time versus balancing your identity. Women continue to be underrepresented in many facets and many aspects in many professions. As surgeons, scientists, armed force personnel, and especially in the senior and executive roles in many major MNCs. Of course, women chose not to go in particular roles in particular sector, but that doesn't mean that women are innately less ambitious, because they have their priorities set in different ways. Like all the previous talks, they have their parenting concerns, they have their career concerns, and they have many other concerns. It's just how you balance your time and identity that is more important. A while ago, there is a very interesting article in New York Times calling the opt-out revolution. This article has been picked out and from that particular edition. So the few women, if you see in that picture, each of them have earned degrees from many of the Ivy Leagues like Stanford, Princeton, Harvard, and many graduate school of businesses, and which was kind of considered citadel of everything male until the first women class has joined in 1969 in Harvard. The article spoke about women quitting their positions long before they actually hit the glass ceilings. So it's not that again, they actually call that, they actually, in that article, they actually call that women are quitting and graciously exiting the careers to take care of other things. So if someone would have called that to me, like graciously exiting your career, probably that would not have gone very well with me. And there was a huge backlash about this article, about especially about this opt-out revolution. Of course, balancing act is different for different people, and of course, it's different for every circumstance as to how you look at it with different perspectives. Me being a doctor, I can talk for myself because a career in medicine is characterized by long working hours, rigid work schedules, and a prevailing culture of putting patient care above everything and anyone else. So that is the most important aspect of, when you balance your act. So of course, everyone has the same 24 hours, irrespective of whatever you do in your life. So you have how you kind of create a niche and how you kind of create your time for yourself is more important when you talk about balancing your acts. So what about few activities? So these are kind of drawn mostly from my personal experiences, rather, I would say. Activities which help you balancing your act. So you have to learn well to manage time well with purpose. So of late I've started journaling, which kind of really helped me out, ease my brain and kind of jot out all the points what I'm trying to do every day. So journaling is one aspect which I kind of learned it recently. And rigid belief systems doesn't work when you try to manage your time well. And of course you have to learn to prioritize things every day. Not once in a while, but if you try to prioritize your day before it starts, it probably will help you manage and put you in a more balancing frame of mind. Of course, you have to create a culture of joint efforts. It is okay to ask for help. You don't have to be overwhelmed all the time. Sometimes you get burned out, and sometimes you don't have to quit, and you can ask help from your family, your colleagues, your partner, anyone, and better to create a culture of joint efforts. So build a system that empowers those around you. Especially, I kind of build a system where my elder one empowers my younger one in kind of helping out with his homeworks and, kind of doing things together. Of course, there was an incident which happened yesterday because my daughter was fighting with my son and she was teaching him 5 plus 2 is not 7, it is 8. So that she wants to put him in my bad books. So sometimes it's like a double-edged sword when you try to empower your elder one, teach your younger one. So work towards empathy. This is kind of very close to my heart. So especially empathy is a core quality, not only in general, but especially in the field of medicine, where you especially have when you're trying to deal with a lot of patients. So this is a very interesting read called Hit Refresh by the CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadella, where he talks about how empathy has really changed the face of Microsoft and how he kind of put empathy into perspective and to make Microsoft in the place where it is right now. So that is very, very important when you kind of try to balance. So remember to pause. So whenever you kind of doing in a very overwhelming situation, it's always remember to pause. So brain fog is one of the most common problems which leads to poor decision making, and of course poor decision making is not at all accepted in the profession where we are in, because you're not dealing with machines but rather you're dealing with people and patients. So that is more important. So I would say building better habits is essential for time management. So that is which has to start at home. And importance of self-care. It's very important that you take care of yourself before you take care of others in your family, at work, and other places. So at AIG, we are very kind of pro doing self-care we have our own bicycle club, the AIG Bicycle Club. We kind of take out time for ourselves, and once in a while we go out kind of venturing and cycling outside. So make your day longer. That is the most important part. If you wake up early, you find a lot of time for yourself. That is more important. And also make a habit stack. You don't have to build all 100% of habits at the same time. You can just build 1% habit every day. So, of course, I started reading a very interesting book called Atomic Habits by James Clear, where he kind of explains you how to, stack your habits one thing at a time, so that, in the end of, so then you see light at the end of the tunnel once you kind of build all good habits. So the last but not the least is you have to understand your chronotype, your physical chronotype. Are you a lark, owl, or a third bird? So that is very, very important. So these are the birds. One is the lark, the corner one, the middle one, the corner one is owl, and the middle one is the third bird. So this chronotype is very, very important when you're trying to build your day. So this has been again borrowed from a very interesting book called When by Daniel Pink. So depending on which kind of bird you are, based on that you can plan your analytic tasks, insight tasks, making an impression. These are all based on very many scientific studies, and also making a decision as to which time is more perfect and more suited to you. So before I conclude, I kind of draw a lot of relate to Mrs. Sudha Murthy, Infosys founder and chairman, because she's really excelled in multiple roles and with very good work-life balance and extreme passion and balance. And of course, she's also simple, straightforward, and a prolific writer. So before I conclude, happy spaces make happy people. So these are my happy spaces. I work out, that definitely clears my mind every day. I'm very happy at work, at family. So these are all, I personally believe, drawn from my own personal experiences. So before I conclude, there is nothing like a work-life balance, but rather I would say work-life integration. Of course, I might sound a little cliche and right, but all days are not the same. Rather than thinking to achieve a perfect work-life balance, it is better to integrate your work and life together and go forward. Thank you so much for having me today. Okay, so next we'll proceed for the panel discussion. So there is a very interesting quote by Oscar Wilde telling that when people agree with me, I always feel that I must be wrong. So that is a very interesting quote, which I really like it. So let's see if our panelists kind of agree with whatever we have put forward today. So in today's panel discussion, we have experienced leaders to novice leaders from medical field and trying to make a difference in the society. So they're from different facets and from different area of life spectrum. Let's listen to their stories, the counterintuitive comments, if there are any, as to what work, life, and well-being is for them, the challenges in managing, and their experiences with truth. Now I request Dr. Anuradha Shekaran, my other colleague, to introduce all the panelists.
May I kindly ask Dr. Shashikala ma'am to please come onto the stage. She's a senior gynecologist and obstetrician, Rainbow Hospitals. I request Dr. Mallikarjun sir, who is the managing director and chief urologist, Asian Institute of Nephrology and Urology. Dr. Srinivas Tati, director in HOD Orthopedics, AIG Hospitals. Dr. Ashwini, senior consultant dermatologist, AIG Hospitals. And Dr. Pragya, our consultant breast surgeon and breast oncologist, to please come as our panelists. Thank you. Thank you, dear panelists. So, since we are talking on the session of work-life balance, and we have well experienced to novice in life on how to balance life, I would like to start off with Dr. Mallikarjun sir. So you being in a leadership role as a director of Asian Institute of Nephrology and Urology, how do you take steps to make sure that the women in your organization have a good work-life balance?
A difficult question, I think. The problem is, I wish I would have been mentored or listened to your lectures somewhere long ago, so that I would have made my life balanced well, in fact, more than anybody else. But I think, you see, I don't think this was a question which was relevant probably a decade ago, but I don't think it's very relevant now. People are very, very intelligent. They're not just going away in this one direction as everybody was going at one point of time. You see, the newer generations, they have their own things very well set in. I am at least having a clash of this new generation and our generation, where our expectations are different, and the new generations where their expectations are very, very clear. I don't need to define what their life balance is there. If you listen to Sujana Priya's talk itself says, majority of youngsters understand it very well and they know it very well. In fact, as a urologist, my number of urology colleagues as a females are very less, fortunately till now, but they'll definitely be more in the near future, and it's going to be very more in near future. Yes, possibly. The only thing what is necessary is a good communication between as a leader and the person whom you are going to employ or who want to take you into your fold or into your team. Basically, the communication is what matters. Majority of the times the employees or the employment happens on an expectation rather than the expectation from the side of the people who are getting employed. So a good communication between these two will make the difference. And that's what I make a point, like whosoever the female employees, whosoever is in the right top positions, not about the lower part, but basically in the top positions, I would sit across and talk their requirements and their passions and their what expect from the organization before we say. It's just been mentioned in the previous session itself. Rather than this communication will make the clearance better and make them also feel better regarding their balance is concerned.
Thank you, sir.
Hi. So my next question is to Dr. Pragya. Hi, Pragya.
Hi, Dr. Sujana.
Yeah. So my question is, so you have a very young kid at home. So how old is he now?
He's 14 months.
Okay. Oh, 14 months is he's growing up very fast. So despite being a busy surgeon, how do you manage time with him?
There's no one straightforward answer to this, and I'm still struggling every single day. And but I think the most important thing here is that I have an excellent support system at home. Unfortunately, it's not everyone who has this amazing support system. I have my mother and my mother-in-law who take care of him. Well, I'm at work. And but I should also give credit to this organization only because I worked in previous organizations where it was not this, I wouldn't say easy, but it was flexible. It was very flexible with regards to working in one environment and the people around me who are basically my team here. So it's not only family, but I think it's a well-supported system. And but with regards to your question, I think it's, and as per what our previous speakers have also said, it's very, very important to prioritize. I'm still focusing on that because he's only 14 months old. And I have 2 babies right now because we started this unit around 1 year ago. And trying to balance both the babies has been quite a difficult task. But I guess, as Dr. Anuradha said, there were 3 O's, right? The obligations part is something that I'm not focusing on right now at all. And my priorities has been my kid and my work. Because there was also one lady in my community who actually gave up her career for her kids. And as a random conversation that we were having one day, she said, I wish I didn't have to give up my career at that point to raise both my kids because today I don't know what to do. So no matter how much you try this, you're never going to have a perfect work-life balance, but I'm just trying my best not to give up my career and try to push myself as much as I can in that field as well.
So a perfect work-life balance is only defined in books, Pragya.
Absolutely. There's nothing called that.
I know.
That's very interesting to note from a budding mother who's also budding in her career to know how she's balancing herself. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Shashikala Kola that, ma'am, from the time you have started your practice, how do you think the times have changed with reference to work-life balance for working women?
Definitely there's a lot of change. So we are all baby boomers, now the millennials. Over the time when we started, there were a lot more government institutions which were catering in medical this thing. Now we have all these corporate sectors, and even the education wise, there are so many subspecialties. Each person not doing an MD is not sufficient. They have to subspecialize, so they are spending more time studying. And of course, the patients' expectations have gone up. The time the youngsters with this kind of traffic and all the time they spend on commute also has gone up. The long hours of work. So these are all the negative things. And even the doctors themselves, their expectations. When we were students, we were all traveling by bus. we would go to as postgraduates. Now, you know, the standard of living has gone up, and to live up to that also there's a lot of pressure. So, but on the positive side, I feel there are more opportunities, more job opportunities are there, more flexibility, job timings are good. So, yeah, there is a lot of change. So, and even I have started from the government sector and reached to the private sector. So, I've been trying to change my route also to suit the changing scenario.
Thank you, ma'am. Just
Thank
to
you. Yeah, ma'am, it's a proud privilege that KTR Garu is with us. Please, let's give her a big round of applause. And I would just request the panelists if you can take a short break briefly, and we'll reassemble after the proceedings. I'll now request our chairman, Dr. D. Nageshwar Reddy, to please take over.
So good morning, everybody, and welcome again to this very unique Women in Medicine Conclave. This is probably for the first time in our country we're having a conclave of this nature, where women in medicine topic is going to be discussed in a non-academic fashion, because most of medical conferences are academics and so on, and what is the incidence of this disease in women, what is the incidence in men, and so on. But we decided to have this conclave for several important reasons. I think increasingly, can I have the slides on? Yeah. So, there's increasingly quite remarkable change in what is happening to women in general. And in fact, over the last few years, months and days, these changes are very visible. You see the first women referee in the World Cup, all women referee in the World Cup was 2 days back. And this was mentioned earlier, the BCCI has made women equal pay to men. I think again this is a huge step, because it's going to encourage a lot of women to go into medicine. And finally, at AIG, we've always been aware of this. In fact, the world's first all-women endoscopic surgery conference is going to be held in February next year, where the top 10 women endoscopic surgeons in the world are invited, and there'll be women endoscopic all over coming to watch their performance. So these are all the changes. In fact, as I said, at AIG Hospital, we are quite aware of this. In fact, of the 5,000 and odd employees we have here, 58% are women. And of even the senior women doctors that we have here, 34% are women, compared to an average in other corporates of 15%. So you see, it's much more higher. Now, it's not that we are specifically supporting women, it's just that these are women with outstanding capabilities who have joined us, who have been part of our team, and we want to recognize that. So what's our problem then? Why should we discuss this at all? The problem is that if you look at the medical colleges, again, this has been discussed in our panel earlier, in the medical colleges, 65 to 70% are students are women. But when they go up to the postgraduate level, especially certain specialties, there's a huge leak. Only 15-20% are women. Rest of the women are coming out of that, going into either general practice or gynecology little, or mostly becoming non-medical professional people. That's what is happening. So there's a big leak there. In our own specialty, there are 2,500 gastroenterologists in our country, and only 123 of them are women, less than 10%. Of the endoscopies, there are 1,000 endoscopists in the country doing aggressive endoscopy. There are just 2 women doing aggressive endoscopy. So you see the disparity. So there's something wrong there, especially in other fields like cardiothoracic surgery and so on. Very few women. So we feel there's something that's causing this disparity, so that women are dropping out, and we want to understand this. And that's the reason why we thought of this conclave. When we first thought of this conclave, some of our very senior women doctors said, no, we don't want reservations. We don't want this conclave. There was a little misunderstanding that probably we are trying to ask for reservations for women, but this was not the purpose. The purpose of this meeting is to celebrate the achievement of all the women. We have some outstanding consultants here. This morning you heard some of them discussing. I think the level of discussion and maturity is beyond what most men would do in a conference. So the need of this conference is discuss what are the challenges they face, and more importantly to see if we can make a solutions, because what we are planning is to prepare a white paper which goes to the government to see if some of these things can be implemented to change the way that women come into medicine. In fact, after all the panels, we have invited these high achievers in other specialties to come in the evening to have a fireside chat with us to discuss what are the challenges they faced and how these can be applied to women who are going in. In fact, most of the audience this morning are women postgraduates who are actually getting into surgical, medical PGs and want to do further in their life. And finally, I take this opportunity to welcome our chief guest and keynote addresser, Mr. KTR Garu, as is known. Now, Ms. KT Ramarao is not only the Minister for Industries, Commerce, IT, EC, Municipal Administration, and so on, but he is an outstanding individual. I had known him briefly now, and in the conversations that I had known with him, I discovered that he is much beyond a politician. In fact, it would probably an insult to call him a politician, because I would say that he is a visionary with a common man's touch. Several hours of sitting together with him, he would describe what is the future vision for Hyderabad, for Telangana. I mean, it's remarkable that he's thinking of these things when some of the things we never even think of. So these are things that I think have made a huge difference. In fact, the face of Hyderabad or Telangana today is because of him. If Hyderabad is known as the most livable city in India today, it's because of him. He has transformed Hyderabad to a large extent. I know there'll be other claims and so on, but I think what he has done is, his vision is something which has been remarkable. In fact, when he came in, he was saying, looks like a lot of men speakers. So I wanted to tell you, so the reason why we invited you was that our initial choice was to get some famous women achiever from some part of the country to come, and even somebody from abroad to come and address this audience. But all the women doctors in our hospital wanted you to do this. So that's the reason we invited you. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. KT Ramarao.
I wasn't expecting those pictures and photographs, but thank you, sir. Thank you, Dr. Reddy. I was just also wondering this light if it's going to show my bald spots, but looks like it isn't. Thank you. Dr. Nageshwar Reddy Garu, to all the friends in the gathering, distinguished audience from various parts of India and I think some other parts of the world as well, to my friends from media. Firstly, before I go into my formal speech, let me place on record my gratitude, my sincere appreciation toward Dr. Nageshwar Reddy Garu. And whenever I say something, I actually mean it from the bottom of my heart. I am not saying this because he's invited me. This is the first time I'm at AIG, not as a patient, but as a guest. So I have to ensure that I say a few words which I truly mean. Firstly, I know Dr. Reddy as one of the most eminent gastroenterologists, endoscopists in the world. He's one of the most renowned. In fact, I've had a couple of chief ministers. I'm not naming names. I've had a couple of chief ministers call me seeking his time, saying, listen, I have a patient who needs this time. So please, why don't you get me Dr. Reddy's appointment? And please ensure that my patient, my attendant, my person, my family member is taken good care of. So I told that Honorable Chief Minister that you should not worry about that at all. You know, Dr. Reddy treats everybody equally. And when I say this, I say it with utmost sincerity because I remember when COVID hit us, it was an unprecedented crisis for the governments, for hospitals, for the medical fraternity, for people at large, for humanity at large, for the world at large. And one of the outstanding hospitals in Hyderabad that shone like nobody else is AIG under Dr. Reddy. And I say this because I remember very well I'm very active on social media. I used to, because, that was the time where you couldn't go out, where you couldn't meet people in person. So I was trying my best to ensure that, we respond to people's concerns, to their grievances, to ensure that their voices are heard, or at least understand what's going on in the world. Because, during COVID, I think most of the doctors here would agree with me. During COVID, everybody became a doctor. Everybody knew everything. Everybody was reading up. Everybody was looking up. Everybody was asking their doctors what a steroid would do, or what in fact, even all the politicians started speaking, uttering all the complicated words, all the complicated medicines, Even we started calling up pharmaceutical companies and saying, when are you going to give me the remdesivir that you, because otherwise I would have never in my life ever pronounced remdesivir, right? So during COVID, the reason why I say AIG shone like nobody else is because I remember very well when the rest of Hyderabad, I don't want to name names, was charging exorbitant amounts. Rest of Hyderabad's hospitals were charging exorbitant amounts. Dr. Reddy, without a question, I think led by example and ensured that patients were not exploited. And that shows the hallmark of a great leader. My compliments to you, sir. My compliments to you on that. And secondly, I was here for a couple of days recently. I stayed overnight actually. Of course, Dr. Reddy takes a lot of pride in this facility. He gave me a tour very kindly, took time out, gave me a tour of the place, showed me what all he has done and what all, in fact, he's imbibed, some of the best practices from across the world. He was taking great pride in telling me how he kind of decongested his reception area, and he ensured that the people's flow, almost 5, 6, 7,000 people, how they could be accommodated, the ground, at the lower ground, at the upper ground levels, and how neatly they were done. The travelators inside the hospital, etc., are one of its kind. But what impressed me the most was not the travelators, was not how beautifully it is designed, not even how many plants he's gotten for so many other parts of the world, none of that. What impressed me the most was, one day he walks in at 11:30 p.m. in the night, and he was basically giving me advice and telling me, what needs to be done, etc., etc. Next morning at 6:30, once again he's back in the hospital. I said, did you get some sleep? He said, yeah, I need 3 hours of sleep. I said, okay, you have to tell me what you're drinking, what you're eating, because I need that too. Because if you're able to sustain a long day with 3 hours of sleep, I think that's astounding. The work ethic of this man, Dr. Nageshwar Reddy, is something that the world can certainly learn from, imbibe from. My compliments to you, sir. Pulling 16, 17-hour day. And I think the theme of this session is not only women in medicine, but work-life balance or something. I'm guessing you don't have much of a work-life balance, sir. I think you work all the time. And I think kudos to you for your work ethic and for what you've built here. And the third thing, and I'll leave it at this because otherwise it'll sound like this is a mutual admiration society. But the third thing I'll tell you, he told me, one of the richest businessmen in India had visited this hospital privately. He was here, I don't want to name names. He took a tour of the place. He was supposed to stay for 1 hour. He ended up staying for 4 hours. And end of the entire tour, he offers Dr. Reddy a check. He says, this is far more impressive than I thought it was. I'm going to write a check to you, a few thousand crores. And Dr. Reddy refused it flat. He said, I haven't built this for commercial purposes. I have built this facility to ensure that research and development happens. I have not built this with a profit motive. So therefore, my kudos to you, sir, on building a world-class facility in our city, in Hyderabad. And I'm also told that Newsweek has rated you as one, and they say this entire facility as one among the best gastroentero facilities in the world. Top 3, I think it is. So my compliments to the entire family of AIG, because it can't be just one man doing it, it's the entire team. So my compliments. Now, of course, I'm extremely pleased to be here. When he asked me a month ago, I said I'd absolutely be here. And I've cancelled one meeting to be here, sir. I have to tell you that. Because it was getting too much. There's like 5 events and I had to cancel one. But I'm glad to be here. But then I was asking myself, neither am I a woman nor am I in medicine. So what am I doing here? So I asked him, I said, what am I doing here? What am I supposed to speak? He simply said, give us an outsider's perspective on what needs to be done, what possibly, we can't see. When you're inside the profession, if you're a doctor or even if you're a woman, you probably end up, with a tunnel vision. So probably giving an outsider's perspective and trying to give you a sense of what I think is happening across the world is what I would love to do today. Medicine has always been looked up to as one of the noblest professions across the world. In fact, even today when I speak to my daughter, who's 13, and when I ask her, what is it that you want to do? I think many fathers, many parents, in fact, in India especially, have had this, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, have had this thing, where you want your son to be an engineer and your daughter to be a doctor. I think that is how it has been. But my mother, I have to tell you, a little story, an anecdotal one. My mother always wanted me to be a doctor. She was insisting, she was actually very passionate about it. She's always said, there isn't a single doctor in the family. You should actually become a doctor. I ended up taking biology. I eventually ended up as a biotechnologist. That's a different story. Back in 91, when I was in my +2, I studied reasonably well. I don't think I'm a top of the class student, but I was a above average student, let me put it that way. And back in that day, we had MSET. Now I think it's NEET. Back in that day, it was MSET. So right after I finished my +2, I only could garner a 1600 rank. I wasn't one of those top students who could get into the top 100 or 200. So I ended up getting only B Pharmacy, and I could have possibly gotten agriculture or something. I didn't want to do that. Then I actually went to Karnataka, took that entrance test. Now what happened is, of course, in Karnataka, there were many more medical colleges. The private medical college system was far more robust. So I got in there. In fact, I got in some of the best colleges in Karnataka. But my father is a very persuasive man. He can convince you, to basically do anything he wants. Right? So when I came and told him that I got through this entrance test in Karnataka and I'm going to join medicine in Karnataka, he told me, do you know how many years a doctor's, kind of takes to settle into life? I said, I have no clue. My mom wanted me to be a doctor, so I'm going to be a doctor. He said, you'll be 32 or 33 by the time you complete your graduation, post-graduation, super specialization, and a bunch of other things. And then for the rest of your life, you could be called at 12 in the midnight, for an emergency, and you'll have to run. So there won't be much of a work-life balance. He kind of basically stressed me out by saying all that. I said, okay, if that is the case, I'm not doing it. I'd rather do something else. So that's how I ended up not being a doctor, is where I'm going with this. But I do believe sincerely, because each and every time some family member of mine had an emergency, the kind of admiration, the kind of respect in that moment, any person would have toward the doctor that treats you is something that is unquantifiable, immeasurable, and that kind of gratitude, that kind of amazement with which we look at you, all the people engaged in this noble profession, that cannot be summed up in words. So my compliments to you, because these are all intangibles. I am the Minister for Municipal Administration. I keep telling my team, that अगर हैदराबाद को हम लोग हर दिन साफ रखते हैं, हर दिन अगर साफ सुथरा रखते हैं, कोई हमें कॉम्प्लीमेंट नहीं देता है, कोई भी हमें तारीफ नहीं करता है, बट 4 दिन छोड़ दो, इतना गाली मिलता है. Same applies to you guys also. You treat a patient very well, you'll just be, given a thanks. You'll just be told, you've done a great job, thank you very much. But that 1 out of the 1,000 mess ups will get you such flack that you will never ever forget for the rest of your life. That is a profession that you've chosen, unfortunately or fortunately. So therefore, it is a thankless job. But I think this is one opportunity that I would like to take to thank this entire brilliant team of medical professionals assembled here. Thank you very much on behalf of the people of Telangana, of all of us non-medical professionals. In the past few years, of course, India has made tremendous advancements in the field of medicine. Many of our doctors, like Dr. Reddy here, have made their mark on the international arena. I know Dr. Reddy also travels quite a bit. He travels, I think, to at least a few countries every month. A noble profession like medicine, of course, can play a pivotal role in breaking the boundaries of gender bias as well. Although historically it has been a male-dominated field, many extraordinary women also have paved way as pioneers in healthcare. One such path-breaking personality was Dr. Anandibal Joshi, who was the first female Indian physician and the first Indian woman to have gained a degree in Western medicine in the late 1800s. Another example, of course, is Dr. V. Shanta, an oncologist, was awarded Padma Shri and Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan awards for her efforts in improving accessibility of affordable cancer treatment. And of course, we have our own Dr. Soumya Swaminathan, who was omnipresent during COVID, a pediatrician who was at the helm of World Health Organization as a chief scientist during COVID-19 pandemic. Talking of the pandemic, I must also use this opportunity to mention that 2 of the 3 companies that have developed indigenous COVID-19 vaccines in India are from the city of Hyderabad, and both of them have women as their leaders in the driver's seat. Suchitra Ella of Bharat Biotech and of course Mahima Datla of Biological Advance, both are outstanding women leaders in healthcare and medicine who have contributed tremendously to the vaccine industry and to the biotechnology industry in India and abroad. The list of women who have made strides in the field of healthcare goes on. There's plenty of very, very talented doctors and medical professionals across the globe and across India now also. Today, our healthcare systems are rapidly transforming as they embrace digital technologies. Women can play an important role in this evolution, not only as medical professionals, but also in the field of AI, big data, and data digitization, which aid in smarter decision making. As a state with leadership position in technology and also life sciences, broadly, of course, healthcare, we are thrilled about the opportunities presented by the new areas of medicine and biomedical technologies. I keep saying this very often. I keep saying that Hyderabad is neither north of India nor south of India. In fact, Hyderabad is where the north of India meets the south of India. Hyderabad is where paratha meets dosa. Hyderabad is where biology meets technology. Hyderabad is where data sciences marries life sciences. Hyderabad is where Mangoverse meets Metaverse. Hyderabad is that beautiful melting pot where the confluence of these technologies can be leveraged to the greater good of humanity, greater good of healthcare advancements in today's world. Honorable Chief Minister of Telangana, Shri KCR Garu, he always tells us one thing. Whenever I talk to him about fancy new technology, he only has one question. He asks, what is the societal good that can be accomplished by way of this new technology? When I talk to him about AI, artificial intelligence, or machine learning, or robotics, the one question he says is, what is the advantage to society? What is the advantage to the common man on the ground by way of this technology? And he also says, any technology that does not have a positive societal impact is futile. However advanced or cool it is, it may not be of use unless it is put to greater good, it is used to greater good. Now, we have embarked on an ambitious mission to create health profiles, digital health profiles of more than 40 million citizens of Telangana. Now, this is one unique effort in Telangana that I'm super proud of, because this brings about the convergence of medicine and technology. And in fact, as a pilot state, I've chosen my district, Rajanna Sirsila, to have done this. Now, a lot of people think and ask, why are you doing it? What is it that you're wanting to accomplish by way of this? What we are trying to accomplish by way of building electronic medical record of each and every citizen is, for instance, when we've completed the pilot in my district, my district has about 422,000 adults who are above the age of 18. So we've conducted different kinds of tests. We've taken the usual metrics, studied the vitals, and now have built the entire digital health profile. What we've realized in my district is that there is a heavy prevalence of oncological problems among the women in my district. It could be cervical cancer, it could be breast cancer, but there seemed to be a pattern to this. So when we started looking at the data, and then there is another district called Mulugu, where we've also completed the pilot project. We started looking at the data, we started analyzing it, we realized that there are a lot of cardiological challenges there. So as a government, when you're planning 33 medical colleges, government medical colleges in each of the districts, what we ought to be doing now is start preparing for the future, start bracing for the future based on the data we have. So therefore, in my district in Sirsila, what we've decided is in the newly built medical college, we will be having a dedicated oncology unit where we will be focusing on all the oncological problems, which are already prevalent, and how do we prevent them going forward is something that will be a focus. So this sort of predictive healthcare planning is what we would love to accomplish, and leveraging AI, valuable data from electronic and medical health records, we can turn these insights into future healthcare strategies. On the other hand, genomics database analytics also can aid in precision medicine, and we can design tailor-made treatments for patients, especially, like I said, in oncology. While technology is, of course, revolutionizing healthcare, and robots probably are going to take over surgeries at some point, at least the simple ones, I strongly believe that human element will always be central to the field of medicine and can't be replaced ever. Women in general are more compassionate, of course, sincere. The men are going to hate me for saying this, are more committed, and hence they, of course, make fantastic surgeons. Most importantly, women make up almost 50% of the workforce in the world. However, there is still adequate room for us to do better, as Dr. Reddy just pointed out. If in his hospital, with his progressive outlook, it's only 34.8% is what you mentioned, I think there is a lot of room to do better and increase participation and career advancement of women in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and most importantly, medicine. In the recent past, women scientists like Drs. Frances H. Arnold, Emmanuel Charpentier, Jennifer Doudna, among others, have been deservingly recognized with Nobel Prize for their pioneering work in the field of biomedical engineering and have really broken the glass ceiling. It is true that number of women doctors have been on a rise around the world. When compared to the last decade, there is a rise in the number of women pursuing medicine as students. In 2016-17, there was a spurt in the number of women pursuing postdoctoral medicine. However, it still remains a domain where there is a dearth of practicing female doctors in India. I see this with a sense of urgency. I say this with a sense of urgency to improve gender parity in the physician workforce, to improve the access to women physicians. Full and equal participation and leadership of women in medicine is instrumental for achieving gender equality and empowerment. Needless to say, women in leadership positions have proven to increase organizational productivity as well. Telangana is one of the very few states in India which has introduced gender equality into the curriculum towards positive change at a school education level. The number of women enrolling in degree programs in Telangana is rising steadily year after year. The fact that bachelor's in life sciences is amongst the top 3 popular undergraduate courses in Telangana is extremely encouraging and a testament also to our life sciences ecosystem. Also, it is extremely encouraging to see that more than 42,000 plus admissions a year, which is a staggering 75% of women in life sciences, is incredible opportunity to create a strong workforce. This is a reflection not just of the aptitude of women to take up science, but also a support system within families that encourages them to take up this stream of life. There's a need, of course, to inculcate a culture of gender equality from early childhood, not only at homes, but also in schools and workplaces and universities as well. As per the latest NFHS, that is the National Family Health Survey report, our state has among the highest population of working women in India. But as we go forward, we must not get complacent, we must not relax. To further provide an impetus, we are also opening up a Telangana Women's University in our state, an exclusive university for women. Additionally, we have also set up a unique initiative known as V-Hub, encouraging women entrepreneurs to enable women from various sectors to start up and scale up by providing support in funding, mentoring, strategy, and for growth. In a nutshell, our constant endeavor to build an ecosystem for women across disciplines to excel and make an impact on the society. To conclude, I'd like to quote words of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Empowering women is a prerequisite for creating a good nation. When women are empowered, society with stability is assured. Empowerment of women is essential as their thoughts and their value systems lead to development of good family, good society, and ultimately a good nation. Government of Telangana will continue to undertake targeted initiatives to ensure and scale the participation of women in not only medicine, but across different disciplines. I once again thank Dr. Reddy for this wonderful opportunity that he has given me to meet all of you. Thank you very much. Jai Telangana, Jai Hind.
Thank you very much, sir, for this outstanding lecture and, in fact, advice to all the people here. I think it's truly outstanding in the sense that there are a lot of directions that were given, and now I understand why all the women doctors wanted you onto the stage. And it was thank you very much for sparing. I know that, in fact, today he just came from an IT meeting. He's come here. He has to go to a police meeting and then another meeting. So the versatility of Mr. KTR is seen this very clearly, that everywhere he has to speak on so many different subjects. So when a doctors complain of multitasking, we can quote this and tell them what has happened one day in your life, and then some of them will probably see what they can do. Thank you very much. On behalf of the AIG, I'd like you to come and receive a small mementos.
Thank you, sir. Now, our chairman, sir, will be seeing off our chief guest. In a few minutes, we'll be resuming with our panel discussion for our second session, work-life balance. Thank you. I would request the speakers to come onto the stage, Dr. Anuradha ma'am and Dr. Sujna Priya ma'am, and invite the panelists onto the stage.
I request all our panelists to please come on to stage. As our panelists are coming on stage, I request everyone to sit down, and we have just heard an inspirational talk from KTR Garu about how there is a need for women empowerment, gender equality, and all the government's support for women. They have started the We Hub and everything. And if you have noted one point, he had asked, Dr. D.N. Reddy sleeps only for 3 hours, and he was wondering, does he have a work-life balance? Well, I would say he's the perfect physician couple for work-life balance, where his wife, Dr. Carol ma'am, has balanced work and career, and ma'am has paved the path for road to success to sir. And I was also appreciate sir for balancing his personal life. So with that note, we come back to our panelists on work-life balance. Sujna, please.
Yeah, so now my next question is to Dr. Ashwini. So, hi Ashwini.
Hi.
So Ashwini, you're a busy dermatologist working in AIG Hospitals, and I mean, especially in your field, lots of women have proclivity to be in a specialty which is kind of elective, where there are no emergencies, because to have a very good work-life balance. In reality, are you really able to achieve that balance? And for the reasons you have actually signed up and you've put dermatology as your primary specialty, what do you think?
When it comes to graduation, it is because of the parents' support we take up the branch. And next, coming to post graduation, the specialities and super specialities, at which time the marriages generally happen in this generation. We choose between career and work commitments and family responsibilities. I chose dermatology because I liked medical branch rather than surgical branch. In that too, so that I can have spend more time with the family with less emergencies. I choose dermatology as a branch.
So were you able to achieve a perfect work-life balance just because you choose dermatology?
Yes.
You're happy with
Because-
your decision now?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
The statistics say that the best work-life balance is, first number one is dermatology.
Dermatology.
So I would like to ask Dr. Srinivas, in a specialty which is depicted as a rugby boys club with very long and strenuous surgeries, unexpected emergencies, how do you ensure that your female colleagues get into this work-life integration in this specialty?
That's a great question. As we all know, orthopedics from the beginning is seen as a men's only specialty, but recently has seen a big change in how women are coming into orthopedics, particularly in the Western world. Now we are seeing the same in our country as well. Even though the number is very less, we do see the number is growing up. When it comes to as a specialty, orthopedics has so many subspecialties where women can fit in. I wouldn't say every subspecialty a woman would be able to take care. For example, like spine can be very, very tedious job. But I'm not saying no woman can do it. But you have to choose, like what Dr. Rashmi has done, choosing a branch which is going to create a very good life-work balance. Like that, we do have in orthopedics the specialties where the women can fit in. Not only that, the other important aspect is the training. How you can get trained to a certain limit where you can take all the challenges in the work without losing that balance. That training is the one which imparts you the ability to take some certain decisions which will help in making your life easy and the patient's workflow or patient flow easy. So I won't say orthopedics is only a men's club anymore. Women are equally capable of doing the job, and the changes in the technology, the resources we have made a huge impact in getting women into the orthopedics.
Thank you. So I think the times are changing, and as we have heard, the male colleagues from mentor to femtor are really helping. Thank you.
Okay, so my next question is to Malik sir. Sir, you were the past president of Urological Society of India and currently the vice president of NAT board. So what are the changes in the curriculum you suggest during the training of lady doctors?
I don't think that's relevant. Basically, at one point, we are looking at empowerment. At the same time, we are cutting down their thing. When we believe they are equal, there's nothing of a possibility of a change in the curriculum that can be possible. I think there's a government guidelines regarding, especially when compared to NAT board training, taking an exam, giving a permissions, etc. When it comes, there is a provisions given by the government. It is not only for education sector, in every sector. We can't undermine this nor overboard on that. So there are defined guidelines. We ourselves cannot change guidelines. Rather, in fact, I was taking a cue from what Srinivas was talking about. I think we need to look now as not individuals any further. All the discussion happens because we talk about one individual and the work-life balance for that individual, which revolves around her work and her life. I understand that. But at present, the whole thing is influenced by, her work alone is influenced by a team-based approach. So the whole thing has to shift from an individual to a team base. If you have team which has got individuals of multiple competencies, of multiple prioritizations, multiple passions of different nature, which will complement into one subject, that will be the future, wherein everybody can have their work-life balance, including men. Why only women? Including men. Take along Dr. Reddy. So looking at it, so including men, and that will fulfill the need. So the whole approach should be is 5 together will make a better sense, irrespective of whatsoever sizes they have.
Yeah, thank you for a very incisive and insightful comment, sir.
May I just add on to that, sir? So, by change in curriculum, we're just talking about what could be the changes in curriculum to bring about awareness for women doctors that they can also go on the entrepreneurship route. So,
Well, I think that's common for not only women. Let me tell you, it's men have become entrepreneurs not by choice. It happened because somebody has to run the entrepreneurship. If somebody is always going to take care, just now Dr. Keter has said, 2 women entrepreneurs who made the difference in COVID. It's attitude. I would say leadership and entrepreneurship is an attitude which comes over a period of time, and it has to come, circumstances have to come, opportunity has to be there, his mentality has to suit for it, and the situations have to be congenial for it to happen. So I think I still quote Dr. Reddy on one day in our meeting as a chief guest. He said, "We have been taught how to treat a patient. We've been how to investigate a patient, how to treat a complication, etc. Nothing more than that, and we have been left into the society." This is Dr. Nageshwari's words I'm quoting across. Neither we are taught about a teamwork, neither we have never taught about how to mix 10 people together and play as a cricket team, or we never thought about a leadership quality during our medicine, or a quality wherein if you haven't that attitude or somebody is mentoring, you got an entrepreneurship quality which can give you a path for future. So all these circumstances, what we see today, are not by their mindsets which have happened, but by circumstances and situations which led them to that point. But I think from now onwards, I think this curriculum has to get into the medical education. In fact, I tell you, one of the discussions what is happening in NATBoard is creating a DNB in medical education alone. We're not sure how are we educating the medical students in a right way. So there is a possibility in near future, it's under discussion with our governing council, that you may have a DNB which will be for medical education alone. How to educate these medical students, in what ways? Possibly a lot more discussion will come into picture at that time, and possibly these attachments into the curriculum will be set into place in the next 2 years to come.
thank you, sir. I think we need leaders like you to push that forward. So, my next question will be to Dr. Pragnya. Dr. Pragnya, you're from an entrepreneurial family, but yet you made a choice to join this field. So, what do you think as a better work balance? Your family who's doing entrepreneurship, or you as a surgeon?
Which one has better work-life balance? I'm pretty sure none of the doctors would like it if I said this, but I've seen my father, while growing up, I've heard stories about how he just ran around trying to understand what he wanted to do as an entrepreneur. He knew he wanted to do some sort of business, but there is never stability and balance initially. And again, while we were growing up, I've also seen him run around every single day, and there's no time limit or anything of that sort. He used to wake up in the morning, and then he's working, he's traveling constantly. So when I had to make a decision about what I wanted to do, I was actually advised, like Mr. KTR said, my mother wanted me to be a doctor, and I just ran into the field, and my love for general surgery pushed me into that. But then later I chose something which put me into a work-life balance, right? Breast surgery, which thankfully doesn't have too many emergencies. But as an entrepreneur, I think the entire onus falls on one person, but as a doctor, you have a team, like Dr. Malik and Dr. Srinivas just mentioned. We can work with a team and get the best treatment for the patient. So unless obviously it's things like critical care where you have to be around the clock and other fields, I think to a certain extent being an entrepreneur has a harder work-life balance, because you are responsible for so many people in that particular company that they're working in, right? So yeah, doctors won't like this answer, but I think it's harder for an entrepreneur. That's why I chose this field also, to be a doctor. And honestly, I didn't like the dinner conversations I was having.
So, has your mother ever complained that she was not having work-life balance when your dad actually started up?
I think she should be answering this question. She's right here. But I think, as most of the women in the previous generation did, they took over the entire responsibility of taking care of the children while the fathers went ahead and, became businessmen and made their company successful. But I never got any complaints personally, but I'm sure my dad did. But again, having said that, it has to be one way or the other. It can't be both of in this generation, it's very different that both the parents are trying to get into a field and trying to make marks for themselves. But I think in the previous generation, it was very hard, and that's how it worked for them.
Thank you. So my next question is to Shashikala ma'am. Madam, after donning a lot of different hats, starting from your career, a busy doctor, wife, mother, now a grandmother, how do you achieve a sense of stillness? How do you balance yourself? I mean, pertaining to the physical well-being and the mental
It's
well-being
not
as
just the roles of mother, grandmother and all. As a daughter, daughter-in-law, a friend, a colleague, an employer, there are so many roles we don, and each is compartmentalized. I see each one's life as a painting. You decide to have a miniature painting, or you have a large painting, or you do a big fresco, whatever. You plan your life, and accordingly you also look at your strengths and weaknesses, what all support systems you have. If you don't have, you have to get them in place. But one thing is, when you become a doctor, you have to commit yourself, your life, you have to be in your profession and do your best, do better than what you did. Because as the doctor said, the implicit mentorship, you are the implicit mentor to your children, to your family, to your extended family. So you have to be at it. You cannot say, after doing medicine, I'm at home, I've left my family and I'm sitting at home. It doesn't really, it may give you short-term gains, but the long-term gains are not there. So the long-term gains is what the family gets when you work hard. So you have to have the passion, you have to persevere, you have to sacrifice, and you have to be selfish also. You have to teach your family that this is the time I can give to you, and this is the time you have to accept. And the time, live in the moment. So when you're speaking to your child or your spouse or your whoever it is, you give your 100% at that point of time. So you compartmentalize. Actually, for my 60th birthday, I didn't realize. My brother said, my sister has learnt to compartmentalize her life. I think I learnt it from my mother. So when she was talking about dermatology, I wanted to add a few things. My mother took microbiology because she thought she could stay at home. But being a microbiologist, she was a very hardworking woman. She became the All India Microbiologists Association President, Immunohematology President, and she was Director IPM, and she was the second Vice Chancellor of Mahila University, Tirupati. She used to travel a lot. And when I was 6 years, these are the implicit mentorship I have learned. When I was 6 years old, my brother was 7, my sister was 1 year old. She left us all 3 with my grandmother and went to US for 1 year WHO fellowship in 1965, those days when there were no cell phones, no way to interact. So and we learned to live, between the siblings, we spent our time, we went to school, we had friends. So you learned the value of hard work. I think this is something which I thought I have learned from my mother and my mother-in-law also, and a lot of support from the family. So whenever you take support, you have to give back also. It is not just one way, this thing. You can't just take help from them and not give back. So you need to have a lot of energy, and like how you said, you have to work on yourself. And that stillness you come when you also spend time for yourself. Like you said, exercise. At 42, I started learning music. Then now I'm doing a Telugu diploma course in Telugu. And see, these are all opportunities. When they come, you say, I don't have time, you don't have time. If you make time, you get. So I did art of living, I did transcendental meditation, I did Reiki. All those things I think gave me a wider perspective of what is happening in my life, where it is leading, how I should change courses at different points of time. And I am fond of saris. I love to wear nice colorful saris. So I am a member of Craft Council. Whenever I have time, I go. On the day I postpone my outpatient or prepone my surgeries, I make time and go. So it is when you want to do something, you make time for it. So if we have only one life to live, so we have to do whatever we want and be happy every moment. We think after retirement I'll do many things, which will never happen. By the time your health may not be good, there may be your parents are aging, something is going wrong, so you may not get that opportunity.
Thank you for emphasizing on this specific me care and self-care, me time also, ma'am. I think a lot of people have to learn this.
No, there are two things. If there is a passion, another thing is work-life balance. If everybody puts work-life balance before selection, everybody will be ending up in dermatology. I think only 95% of the people are still driven by the passion which goes on, and then create a work-life balance over a period of time.
I think now with the changing times, as we said before, the teamwork is giving that option, irrespective of whichever specialty you're choosing, you can still balance your life. How you take it forward is up to you. That's what I think.
Because in my Telugu, now I am doing what is known as Janapadam, where everyone it is a collective thing. So all are helping each other, and in the process they are singing, they dance, and you take short breaks. And also in my life, I feel I always wanted to be on a plateau, not on a plane, not on the peak. In the peak you are lonely. Maybe I should say, Dr. Nageshwar Reddy, if you are on the peak, you are all the time striving to retain your position, for which you have to work much harder. On the plane, you don't have to be that hardworking. You plan, you can enjoy with peers who are also on the same level. So you enjoy life better, I feel that. And then you can also help people who want to get onto the plateau, who are in the plane. But to go on to the peak, it has to be your own struggle and your own interest. That's my feeling.
He is creating enough company in the peak, madam. That's what is happening.
Thank you, ma'am. So that means for a work-life balance, it's very difficult to scale the Mount Everest. But then there are people who have scaled the Mount Everest. So, yes. So since we're talking about dermatology, again, I'll pose a question to Ashwini now. So you have a teenager at home, Ashwini, and I believe she says, I don't want to be in medical profession. And this is in spite of having two facets of medical profession at home. You having chosen dermatology and your husband being a busy surgeon. So how do you think you're going to, do you want to convince her? You don't want to convince her?
Like Dr. Shashikala madam said, medicine needs to have dedication and hard work. And at times they need to sacrifice their family time and even sleep also. And if she is passionate enough, I would encourage her happily. But right now she is not clear what to profession she wants to go into. There are many opportunities right now in this world, and more information, they are more clear than us with regard to internet and social media. And there are many career options. I would suggest her to live her passion.
As rightly said, both Dr. Shashikala and Dr. Ashwini says, follow your passion. Do what suits you best to achieve your work-life balance. And that's what you're telling your daughter.
So my next question is to Dr. Srinivas Tati. Dr. Srinivas, you've lived in the UK for a very long time, almost 16 years. So what do you think, what are the differences between the Indian health system and the UK health system in terms of balancing life, work and life outside work? Outside work for both genders, not only for men, but for women as well.
That's a very important question you asked, Dr. Sujana. It has been a real challenge for me to get adjusted when I came back from UK. Even in UK, when we look at the number of work hours, my predecessors, maybe a decade before, they used to work for around 70, 80 hours. Then came in the European Work Time Directive, which restricts your work time only to 48 hours per week. That made a huge difference in the way we go across. Initially, we thought we are restricted, we are not allowed to do things which we would like to do, etc., etc. But at the outset, after that practice has come into the implementation, you realize how much time it gives you for yourself, for that me time. So when you look at the work-life balance, the working time, how you schedule your working time is also important. How you balance that time. When it comes to your own lifetime, which is out of the work, how you balance that is also very important. So things we do at work in UK, for example, in NHS, we have a schedule. My schedule for the next 3 months is very clear. What I'm going to do next week, what are the week after, week after, week after. Unfortunately, in our country here, that scheduling is a big problem. That organizational changes makes a big difference. And when it comes to the patient flow, in NHS, there's a clear patient flow. How the patient goes to a GP, from the GP comes to a hospital as required, etc. But for us, the patient flow is not that clear. We don't have that organizational things. As a person, as a consultant, we have to organize our own life. That is the way we lead our life, and that is where we strike the balance. So it took almost for me 2-3 years to get that strike the balance to organize myself. So yes, organization like ourselves, Dr. Reddy sir has and Dr. Juros has given us such a freedom to organize our own work here. That makes a huge difference. The organizations where we are working, if they help us, that getting that work-life balance is not a difficult thing.
So we'll go to the last question to Dr. Mallikarjun sir. You're always on the move. You're handling different centers. So how do you personally define your work-life balance and well-being?
Well, I always say we discuss it because some people have sacrificed it once upon a time. Of course, if they have been balancing it very well, we would have not been discussing this. Am I right? That's why we are discussing. So there's always, when some things are being built, those balances are sacrificed to certain extent. You may redefine it at one point of the time, but for some time you need to, because if everybody becomes a leader, who is there going to rule then? Am I right? So there are some people who have to sacrifice. So we need to sacrifice. So I said I was a poor in my work-life balance initial days, but I'm trying to make it better. The one class, the question you asked, am I hopping? If I need to hop everywhere, then it is no point extending everywhere. We should not be hopping, but still the things should happen. Then only it will be possible to expand. Otherwise it is not possible. So I don't go around. I sit at one place. So I don't really go around at all. That's one thing.
Probably smart work-life balance, sir. No.
No, I think that gets you a work-life balance. If you stop going around, you'll never get your work-life balance across. We've been in a moving field at one point of time, but no more. And possibly, I would say, when compared to that generation, like 25 years or 30 years ago, this present generation is far, far blessed, both in learning, both in practice, availability, and opportunity-wise.
Thank you, sir. So one last question to all the panelists. Have you all ever felt guilty on taking
your me time?
Guilty on?
On taking time for yourself?
Me time.
Guilty on not taking, I think probably I thought so. You said the other way around. I'm wondering when I could.
Just time for yourself, leaving your family and everyone, just time for yourself to that me time. Going out on a vacation alone, that kind of time. Me time.
No. That is, I think, needed and possibly, yes, the future ahead. The future ahead. I don't say, see, you're talking to a guy who's already finished 35 years in practice, so there's no point,
No, that's all
because that's
for all
all
the panelists.
past. That's all past.
I think what we actually, we talked about passion, not only passion at work, passion of what you want to do with your other time is also very important. So if you are passionate and if your work life is striking that balance, I don't see anything wrong in feeling guilty. You should not be feeling guilty for taking that me time. The personal well-being, again, physically, mentally, emotionally, is all you get to do only when you are having that me time.
So maybe Pragya, you can answer that question. Did you ever feel guilty for taking me time?
No, I agree with Dr. Srinivas here. Initially, I did, but I now know that I am trying to do as much as I can at work and do justice to all the patients who come to me, and with my son as well. But if I don't get that me time, then there's no sanity. So
I
no,
know.
I don't feel as guilty anymore.
I think we should ask this question to Dr. Nagesh Reddy sir as well. How he has,
His me
does he
time,
have any
own me
guilt
time.
on me time?
So when this question of life work balance comes, I've always, so when I give this talk on life work, so people tell me what life work balance for you. You never seem to have a family life and so on. So I think this is a very important question that this has been discussed. Dr. Shashikala and Mallikarjun also pointed to. It's not the number of hours you work or what, it's actually the quality of your work. That's very important. The quality of your time you spend with your family. So every month, my wife gets a phone call from a wife, another consultant here, scolding her, saying, why did you allow your husband to do this? Now see what's happening. Your husband also is coming late and so on. So this goes on. But so what happened is when we got married, we made an equation. Okay, this is the amount of time that I'll be able to spend, because again, like Malik said, you have to come up in a profession or you want to reach a peak. It's very difficult to compromise on your other things. Like you can't say my family is important, okay, then live according to that. You be on your plane, as Dr. Shashikala was saying. But if you want to go to the top or reach to a certain level, you'll have to sacrifice a lot of things. And one of the sacrifices is, of course, your family time, but it's a quality that's very important. So it's very important that all of us make an equation with our family. Look, this is, otherwise, you'll have all these problems. If you make this equation, like I made with my wife long time when we got married, then I'm also married to gastroenterology, married to you, 2 people. So I have to have 2 wives, spend part of the time. So once you do that, I think it becomes much more easier. And of course, you climb the peak, but also in the peak, you'll have a lot of company there also.
You will have a good view, not much company.
No, you
have a better view.
Again, it's not the quantity of the company, but the quality of the company.
I would add one thing. In fact, sir, I am sorry to interrupt you, but the kick is not reaching the peak, trying to get others onto the peak. It's the biggest kick in life.
Yeah, you're
People should understand that it's hard work to get you into the peak, but the biggest kick is getting others or dragging up onto it, onto the peak is the biggest kick in life.
The travel.
So
That gives you the kick.
So that's absolutely right. You have to create your own company in the peak and see that you don't fall off the cliff. That's important. So this, I think, is life work balance is a very abstract thing. It's you'll have to decide, make a decision in the beginning itself. What is your level where you are going to be, and then decide about that. So there's, I think, to define it very clearly, saying you have to spend 6 hours of your life with your family for life work balance is not right. Your life work balance could be your me time could be traveling in the flight. When you're alone, if you're traveling frequently for some sort of thing, that is your me time. Me too time, that type of thing.
If I may add one question, my husband, when he came from Bangalore to join the printing press, he told me 9 to 5 my parents had working hours. So he said, when I join the press, don't expect me to come home by 5 or 6. I may come late. And he used to work like him 20 hours a day, only 4 hours at home. So it's like, he took that pledge from me beforehand. So I could never say, how come you are working so long? And luckily for me, I was also busy and both of us had our own professions to do. But
I've seen that thing, ma'am, how you took your son to the printing press so that he can spend some time with him.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of done some homework on you, so.
I would like to conclude the session, first of all, highlighting on what Dr. Nagesh Reddy sir says. Yes, that work-life balance is different for different people. You have to carve your own work-life balance. You have to be the leader to take others to that post. So it's not easy. All of us can't climb up to the Mount Everest. So it takes a mentor to take us there. So absolutely true with it. So what we have enjoyed the most today was listening to all the facets by experienced people who have already been there, done this, done that, to the budding people who are still figuring out how to get there and what to do and how to go about. So as we said, every individual have their own journeys, their own perspectives, but what we finally allude depends on how we look at it. So as we have learned today, we have to compartmentalize our thoughts. We have to channelize our energies. We have to focus on taking everyone as a teamwork. And there should not be any gender bias or changes in medical profession, but it should be a change for both the genders. So with this, we thank all our panelists for sharing their personal journeys and also for an entertaining and insightful meaning on the concept of work-life balance. And I would like to thank AIG and Dr. Nagesh Reddy sir for and Dr. Jeeva Rao for giving this opportunity to first of all organize a meeting for women in medicine for us to discuss this. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you all of you for conceptualizing it, and Dr. Reddy sir to really give the impetus onto it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
sir.
from
Thank
all
you.
of us. Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear speakers and panelists. There's absolutely no doubt that women are best placed to talk about work-life balance. Hillary Clinton, a former First Lady, has put it quite succinctly when she said, "Don't confuse having a career with having a life." Probably she was scolding her husband, Bill Clinton, when she said that. We conclude our second session with this. Thank you.
We will now break for a short tea break, and we will resume back our third session, which is on non-orthodox medical specialties for women, and we'll assemble here at 12:30 again. Thank you.
Thank you.